Systems engaged. Frequencies synchronized. Prepare for incoming transmission. Coming to you from somewhere in the multiverse, this is Robots from Tomorrow. This show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, and as always your podcatcher of choice. For the full archive featuring over 800 episodes of comics and comics-friendly content like interviews, book discussions, and freeform tomfoolery, please go to robotsfromtomorrow.net. Here is your host, Greg.
Hello everybody, welcome to the show, or welcome back to the show. This is Robots from Tomorrow. My name is Greg. Thank you for joining me. Today is the second of two panels I moderated at this year's Baltimore Comicon, the Stan Sakai Spotlight panel, where I got the chance to finally sit down with Stan and ask him some questions about his over 40-year career and the samurai rabbit who's been his almost constant companion the entire time. And in 2 weeks, we celebrate Thanksgiving with a look at the very beginning of the Chris Claremont X-Men run, focusing on Giant Size X-Men number 1 and X-Men 94 and 95, but doing so through the lens of the classic X-Men reprints, specifically issues 1 through 3. How does Claremont's special edition revised draft of these opening issues hold up? Check out the episode once your turkey coma wears off and find out. Now, for today's episode, 2 bits of context. Number 1, con panels usually have a 15-minute break between them, so folks can get in and get out easier. I was there getting set up, the audience was mostly there already, and then in walked the man of the hour himself about 10 minutes prior to go time. Stan immediately asked if anybody wanted anything signed, and then proceeded to take care of every request right then and there. Boom, boom, boom. Number 2, I also gave a little anecdote about Stan signing one of my Usagi Yojimbo bound volumes for me at Baltimore Comicon 2013, which, ironically enough, is basically 2 weeks before the first episode of this very podcast. As luck would have it, DMV-based photographer Bruce Guthrie was not only at the 2025 panel taking pictures, he was also at the show back in 2013 and took a picture of the very anecdote I mentioned. I'll have links to both in the show notes because, oh my god, why wouldn't I? So, without any further ado, it's back to the Baltimore Convention Center for the Stan Sakai Spotlight panel. Welcome to the Stan Sakai signing panel. But I'll take it. Yeah, I don't know. Nothing would make me happier.
Let me know when it's time to start.
I don't know. You got a couple of minutes. It's the one place. It's like, you need a Sharpie? It's like, yes, I have a Sharpie, and I have multiple colors. Crowdsource the autograph there.
101's my favorite cover, by the way. Ever. Love that cover. Anytime I have a chance to have all the t-shirts, I try my best to...
You know, we had one guy that would write in every month to tell me how many skulls I had drawn in that issue. So that's why I did this one.
Okay, it's
Sorry, Greg.
No, you're absolutely fine. So, you sign at your table, you sign here. I think the last time you were at Baltimore, let's say 2013, it was like 2013, 2014, I saw you at a preview night, and I had a book that of Usagi stuff that I had bound, and we were at maybe the Hyatt bar or something, and you were on your way to the bar, and I had it, and I was like, oh, you're there, so I was showing it to you. You graciously were talking to me. We're holding it like you were a waiter, and you had the thing, and you had your pen, and you were sketching Usagi in the halfway between the table and the bar. And I was like, oh, I could do this anywhere. You just and completely automatic, all the moves and stuff. It's like, obviously you've done it before, but I was like, that has to be probably not something that you usually do in mid stride. You're just like, oh, I could just do this. Blah blah blah.
I have been. Is this on?
Yeah.
I have been working with Sergio Aragonés. Well, I've known Sergio for about 50 years now, and he used to really make fun of me, like, oh, you draw so fast. It's, like you have a broken arm, or you have to pencil? What kind of girl are you? It's like, and so because years of ridicule, has taught me to draw faster and to draw anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, when you say anywhere, I mean, really, it was basically just like, really flat. It was like, oh, I just do this thing. And it's just like, oh my God. Okay.
Anyway, we should get started.
Yeah. All right, well, good afternoon. Welcome to the Stan Sakai Spotlight panel here at this year's Baltimore Comicon. My name is Greg Matasevich. I host the Robots from Tomorrow podcast, and I'm thrilled to be able to talk with Stan about one of the most consistently excellent careers in comics. Over 40 years as the sole creator, cartoonist of Usagi Yojimbo, writing, drawing, lettering over 200 issues across multiple publishers, Stan has built the success of his Japanese samurai hair with the patience and methodology of the tortoise, one issue at a time, one page at a time, one line at a time. The creative race he continues to this day has brought him multiple Eisner Awards, an induction in their Hall of Fame, a legion of fans, and the respect of his peers. Now, as you said, Usagi wasn't the first thing that you've worked on. Can you remember when you realized that this rabbit and his story was going to be the main story of your career?
Yeah, well, I had wanted to do a story about the adventures of Nelson Groundthumper, which was another rabbit character, but in medieval Europe instead of Japan. And the entire story would be about 2,500 pages, and it would tell why there are anthropomorphic animals, why there are regular animals, and the rise of the humans. So it was going to be like my Lord of the Rings, like an epic story. And the first Nelson adventure was published in Albedo #1 by Steve Galacci. And Steve had made enough money to publish a second issue. So he said, oh, what else do you have? And I thought, oh, maybe I'll continue the story of Nelson. And then I thought, oh, I had a secondary character in the Nelson Groundthumper storyline named Miyamoto Usagi Yojimbo, and thought, oh, maybe I'll just do a fun story about him. And I did, and I fell in love with the character. So the entire Nelson storyline was pushed to the side, and I developed Usagi. So I've been working on Usagi for more than 40 years now.
The Nelson one-shot that came out some years ago, was that you going back to the character, or was that, reintroducing the Albedo story?
That was published by, I believe, Dark Horse, and it came out as a hardcover book. It published all the Nelson Groundthumper stories, which was maybe 100 pages worth of stories, and had a new story in it as well. And every so often, back when I was at Fantagraphics, I would do a Nelson Groundthumper story, just thinking that, one day I'll pick it up again. But
someday the rabbit story is gonna wrap up. And you're like, I need a backup. So
actually, I will end Usagi in about 10 years. I gearing up towards the climax, and then I will finish it in a way that has never been done before in comic books.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to it. Right now, I'm just starting to introduce major characters for the storyline, wrapping up loose ends, and then in about 10 years, it should be finished.
Okay.
And also, I've been going back to Japan about once a year, mainly to do research. I'm going back again next month and visiting a couple of tea farms. And I want to do a story about matcha, Japanese tea. Also, too, in the area I'm going to, outside of Kyoto, is the old Yagyu village. If you know anything about Japanese history, the Yagyu was a significant clan during the shogunate times. So I'm going to visit the Yagyu area. Actually, will be my stepdaughter, Emmy, loves to hike. In fact, she's in Peru right now. She hiked the 2-day Inca Trail to Machu Picchu, and she's in Machu Picchu right now. She arranged for us to hike through the mountains of Japan. So we'll hike to the Yagyu village. When we were there last year, we took the old Samurai Trail from Nagoya. So she always plans for us to hike, even though I'm 72 years old and not prepared to hike in the rain, or, every so often we come to these signs that says, ring the bell to scare the bears away. So anyway, she plans these things for us, for our good.
method research. You're like, look, my characters are walking around, hiking up stuff in Japan.
So if I'm eaten by a bear, then
Okay, took it a little too far there.
that's,
but okay.
that's why the story won't be finished.
So that's interesting. One of the questions about Usagi that's remarkable is how accessible it is while you still have continuing stories and stuff. How do you decide this is going to keep going and I'm going to do like one-offs here or how do you Usagi basically?
Usagi has a very simple story. All you need to know is Usagi is a samurai rabbit living in feudal Japan. And I try to make it as accessible to new readers as possible. I do a lot of one-shots, and that's a good place for new readers to get on board. However, the older readers like the extended stories because there's more character development. There's a lot more research involved, and I personally like the longer stories because I don't have to think up new stories. But it's very deliberate.
So you talked about working with Sergio earlier. In terms of looking at him as a peer, as a mentor, what did you take away from him as a professional?
As a professional, what I took away from him is his commitment to drawing and the way he works. I've known Sergio for about 50 years now. I moved up to California from Hawaii, found his name in the telephone book, and wrote him a letter. He called me up and he said, let's get together. And 50 years later, we're best friends. And I still see him every Friday on Zoom. He doesn't travel much anymore. He just turned 86 last month. And so he doesn't travel as much, but we see each other on Zoom. He and a bunch of other guys. And there are about, maybe up to 15 people, cartoonists, will get together every Friday and meet at a restaurant. And most of them were Disney artists or freelancers. After COVID hit, we kept up the tradition except online, and because everyone's gotten so old, don't want to drive anymore, we just kept the online Zoom calls. But we have people all over the world. We've got one regular from Mexico, the rest are from the US. Once in a while we get a guy from London, which is hard for him because of the time difference and all that. So, but yeah, it's nice. And we are working on the new Gru story right now. I think it's called The Prophecy, and we're already finished with the first issue, and
So many places I could go from here. One of the other things that I find remarkable about Usagi is it is in some ways the perfect all ages book. Can you talk about the balancing act that you've had to do to make it a book that isn't just kid stuff, but also can be appreciated by younger readers without alienating older readers?
Yeah, I love it's read by all ages. Back in the day when people would write letters to the book, we used to get letters from 5-year-olds and up to, we had one guy, or I wouldn't say guy, but one child that took out a subscription using his parents' credit card.
Nice.
And then my editor contacted the parents and said, did you know your son kind of bought a subscription?
Yeah.
And they said, no, we did not. So, but I thought that was kind of cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is for all ages. I used to say that Usagi is written for a readership of one, and these are the stories that I would like to read. But then I got kind of flack from the family, said, that's so pretentious. So, okay, now I say, I try to make it all ages readers. So.
Yeah. I don't want to neglect necessarily the questions. Does anybody have a question?
There's a few. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
You're
We'll
the moderator.
first and then we'll go to that.
You kind of hit on with your plotting. I can keep track of this expansive universe that you've been building for 40 years. As you talk about now, you're trying to tie up loose ends, potentially bring back characters you haven't seen for some time. Kind of what's your system for doing that? Do you have like a giant spreadsheet?
No, I keep everything in my head. But now that dementia starts to set in, actually, yeah, I keep everything in my head, and people ask every so often, like, there's one character who's a priest, appeared in one panel of a story that when I was with the Mirage, and he just sat in the back and says, oh, now is not yet the time for us to meet. And then every so often I get a comment saying, what's with that character? When's he coming back? And then I think, oh my gosh, I don't even remember him. But I must have had some kind of storyline with him in mind. It's the introduction of Inazuma, but he just says, we'll meet soon. But it's been like 30 years later.
Yeah. Soon is relative.
Soon, yeah. Actually, that's another thing. Usagi's timeline is very different from us, such as there's a storyline, Red Scorpion, that was published about 10 years ago. It's 10 years in our time, but in Usagi's time, less than a year has passed, because you can tell the time by the seasons. Since Red Scorpion took place in the spring, he's gone through the summer monsoons into the fall. He went through the snow, and now he's coming back to spring again. So in that 10 years in our time, it's 1 year in Usagi. Their timeline is very different.
Swords, Willow Branch and Young Willow. Where did you get the inspirations for their names?
Willow Branch and Young Willow actually is incorrect. What I had written, and this is before I did research, I had named his longer sword Yagi no Eda, which I thought was Willow Branch, but actually means Goat Branch. So I still haven't changed it. But no one has commented about that. But I guess it should be true. There are a few things that I did, stupid things that I regretted. I've just been too lazy to change. Such as in one of the first storylines, I introduced Lord Hikiji, and I showed Lord Hikiji in one panel, and he was a human. And later I said, why did I do that? And it's been reprinted a lot, so I could have gone back and put like goat ears on his head or something, but I've been too lazy to go do that. So Lord Hikiji is still a human. Actually, that came about because the Nelson Ground Thumper storyline, and like I said, it talks about the decline of the anthropomorphic characters and the rise of the humans. And Lord Hikiji was going to be the leader of the human cause. But anyway, I've never changed it. And yes.
So your command of the craft of storytelling is extraordinary, as many of us have commented on. Specifically, your balance of slow-paced, gentle arcs with the violence that is part and parcel to either Japan. It truly reminds me of Tolkien, who just said that you write stories that you yourself want to read, which is exactly what the Inklings said to each other when they were, and The Hobbit is written for 5 to 8-year-olds and published. So what I'm curious to know is, are you consciously aware of your extraordinary command of storytelling?
Oh yeah, I'm terrific.
Some of these panels are not going to be as goofy as they should be in, say, as like the newest adaptation of the show.
She asked about my storytelling, and it's like the pacing, the plotting, and everything. For me, the writing is hard. I need quiet to write. I spend about a month mulling a story over before I actually commit anything to paper. And I'm thinking about, what if this happens instead of that? What if this new character comes in? What if Usagi trips on a rock and falls? It's like, what if? When I get the story about 80% how I want it, then I'll write it down in a book as an outline. My outlines are basically bits of action, snatches of dialogue. From then, I'll determine how many pages each scene would take. From the outline, I'll do thumbnails, and the thumbnails would tell me how many pages, compositions of the panels, how many panels each page would take. Then it goes to the final artwork. And I do everything the old-fashioned way, on paper, all my notes are written down. I still draw on Strathmore 500 series, Kid Finish, 2-ply Bristol, using pens, inks. I used to use a brush before, but like I said, I'm very lazy. I don't like to wash out brushes. I traveled with Jeff Smith on the Trilogy tour, and he uses a brush, and the way he cares for the brush, it's amazing. We were in his hotel room one night, and he was inking with his brush, and then he had to clean out his brush, and the way the care he takes, he has a little clinics, he dabs at brushes, and I said, oh my gosh, I used to just get a bar of soap and just smash it. And then, just wash it out and suck the tip to point, but the way he did it, it's like, I couldn't do that. And so actually, tomorrow we're doing
Tools of the Trade.
Tools of the Trade panel, which I'm looking forward to. And I do have my pen. I brought my pen here. I found a pen about, when I started about 40 years ago. It was discontinued 10 years later. When I heard it was going to be discontinued, I drove all over the LA area, buying everything I could find. Mm-hmm. And so I'm using that. I actually use 2 pens at a time. One is an old broken in pen, which has a nice thick and thin variation in line strength. The other is a newer, stiffer pen, but it's the same brand that I use for the backgrounds and for background characters and things, and textures. But I'm lazy. Even when I do use a brush, I use the Pentel brushes because I could just cap them and I don't have to wash them. So say it's lazy, but it's not laziness. It's being efficient.
Yeah. It's the return on investment.
Yeah.
Like the amount of time you're doing this, it's not going to be.
In Usagi, you have a lot of homages and celebrations of various pieces of samurai fiction. I was wondering what your favorite samurai movie was.
Oh, my favorite samurai movie, Satomi Hakkenden, the 3-parter that took, I think it was in 1957. I grew up in Hawaii, and there were a lot of Japanese theaters back then, and they would show Satomi Hakkenden every year at the Okapulu Theater, which was just down the street from where I grew up. And I'd watch it every year. And nowadays they have video or DVDs or whatever. You can watch it on Netflix or any type of platform. But that's my favorite. That, Seven Samurai, and Yojimbo are my 3 favorite samurai movies.
Anybody else? Okay, back to the book.
Oh,
Okay.
there's one more question back there.
I love the supporting characters, and I would love to hear more stories about them. Do you ever see anthology series or spin-offs of any of them?
I had proposed a series to Dark Horse, this is about 30 years ago, called Usagi Yojimbo Kagemusha, Shadow Warriors. And these were to be stories that were written and drawn by other creators using anything in the Usagi world, either his descendants or secondary characters, or just the places. And actually, it just so happens, the Space Usagi was supposed to be the first of the Kagemushi series, but there's a Kaito by Jared Cullum and Zach Rosenberg coming out in March from Dark Horse. It's a 5-issue limited series, and it takes place in 1984 Osaka, and it's really neat. I love that. We want to do more things like that by other creators, and there are a few creators that I've already talked to, and I would love to see things by them.
I think it's interesting that, Usagi started at Fantagraphics. You went from Fana to Mirage, Dark Horse to IDW. Now you're back to Dark Horse with the Dogu imprint. And it seems like with this type of venture, you're almost going from being a one-man shop to almost like an editor. It's like another role that you're taking on. Can you talk a little bit about your Dark Horse stuff now in this imprint and what you expand on that?
I can switch publishers because I own Usagi. I own everything about Usagi. I can control publishing, I control merchandising, licensing. We had a Netflix TV show about the descendant of Usagi, and that's came directly because I own the character. And if there's a Roblox game, I guess one of those video games or online, and yeah, we did that. All the Usagi toys that's coming out from NECA Toys, also from Playmates right now, and Thrilljoy is all because we own the character. There's even Usagi Cocoa and Usagi Tea and Usagi Coffee from Jade City. And so it's a lot of it is coming from, hey, this is neat. Yeah, I drink cocoa. I like some Usagi Cocoa. But also too, I can switch publishers. My contract with all my publishers has always been whatever I send them, they publish, because they have no editorial or story input at all. And the first time, thank you. The first time they see the story is when I send it in and it's complete. Like, I also do work for Marvel. I've been doing more work for Marvel. And for Marvel, I send in thumbnails for my synopsis, and they approve that. And from there, I'll go for the finish, the final artwork. But with Usagi, whatever I turn in, they publish. And also, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. From the very beginning to the present, it's one long storyline. It's a story of one character, one person development from when he was young all the way up to the present. So it's, even though it's very accessible, you can pick it up at just about any book, and you'll catch, you'll know what's going on. If you read it from the very beginning, it is one long storyline. The characters appear, they die. Usagi's changed over the years. He was much more impulsive when he was younger. Now he's become more the sensei, the samurai, the teacher character. Now he's traveling with Yukichi, his cousin, and he's taking on the teacher role.
So the working with the publishers, you do the work, you send it in. Is there a place for an editor in that type of a relationship? Because I feel like you've spoken very highly of Diana Schutz.
Diana Schutz.
Talk about that relationship for a little.
Diana Schutz was the best editor I had. She was the editor at Dark Horse, and no one can compare with her.
Okay.
She really fought for the creator. She was about my age, and was like 98 pounds, dripping wet. But I was terrified of her. And so was everyone else, including her boss, Mike Richardson, who's the publisher of Dark Horse. And it's like, I enjoyed working with Diana. I'm so sorry that she retired. But Mike and I worked together on a book called 47 Ronin, which is based upon a historical incident. And I said, I'll only work with you, Mike, if Diana can be the editor. And she said, well, okay. But there were a lot of things that Diana had to go through, such as Mike says, I want to add 8 more pages to this book. And Diana's thing is, no, you can't do that. On the other hand, he is a publisher, so we got the 8 more pages.
Yeah, if he wants it to happen, like it's his signature that makes it happen, so, he will do that. In terms of was it just her being the liaison between you and the publisher? Who do you bounce ideas off of for something Usagi related, or are you just?
You mean story-wise?
Yeah, just in terms of the creative.
I never used to do this, but with Julie, my first wife Sharon passed away, but Julie, my present wife, I bounce ideas off of her, and more importantly, I let her read my pencil pages. I've never let anyone do that before. And she'll give me input from that level, because she's also an artist. And she has insights that I really respect. Like I said, I usually don't show anyone pencil pages. I would show Sergio ink pages once in a while. There's one story in particular called The Kite Story. And we had gotten together, and I said, oh, Sergio, I have a new story here. So let me read it. So he took it to a corner, and then he read it. He said, oh, it's a good story, and gave it back to me. And a few months later, people said, oh, I loved how you drew Gru in the story. I said, what? And this is how San Diego Comic came out. And so, yeah, you drew Gru really nicely. No. But later I found out Serge had drawn Gru in a crowd scene. And people caught up on that. And I never did.
Oh, sneaky.
Yeah. No, he's fun. I love him.
So in terms of other partnerships and collaborations, can you talk about Tom Luth?
Tom passed away. He was the colors for Gru and also for Usagi, when Usagi was in color back in the Mirage days. But yeah, I knew him as a friend and before a professional relationship. Tom was the nicest guy, but he's...
Usagi, primarily a black and white book, obviously color covers. Mirage was full color, and then Dark Horse back to black and white. When you went to IDW, what went into the decision to making the ongoing Usagi book a color experience?
Because at that time, when I was leaving Dark Horse, when I first came to Dark Horse, black and white books are common, but now, how many successful black and white books are there? Walking Dead was the last one, and it's not around anymore. So Usagi had to go to color to stay relevant. And I had been pushing Dark Horse to do a color series, but they said it just cannot be done. Not with Usagi, not with Usagi's fan base. And at that time, IDW had come to me and said, we'd like to publish Usagi. If you're ever dissatisfied with Dark Horse, we'd love to have you at IDW. And it just so happened, it says, oh, well, maybe I am dissatisfied with Dark Horse. And they said, okay, we'll do an Usagi series in color. And not only that, but we'll reprint all the old stories in color as well. And that really appealed to me. Both things appealed to me. So we went over to IDW, and we went back to Dark Horse because, one, they gave us a really good offer. And the second is that I don't know if you keep up with the comic press. You may see that IDW had like a revolving door of editors, and they had a lot of staff turnover, and it was just not consistent. And a few of the editors that were there, we just did not get along with. So we went back to Dark Horse, and like I said, Mike Richardson and I had we're still friends. We had a great relationship, and when we left Dark Horse the first time, he always said, whenever, if ever you want to come back, please, would be willing to have you back.
Good.
The way I got into Dark Horse in the first place was interesting, because I was first with Thoughts and Images and the Fantagraphics, then Mirage, and I was going to stay with Mirage for a long time. Mirage they owned the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but they had suffered a really bad winter storm, and they didn't know about it until the spring thaw. Ooh. And so all their computer equipment were destroyed. And at that time, the comic book industry was not in as great a shape as it was before. So they said, we're going to stop publishing. However, we'll give you 7 months to find a new publisher. So I sent out, I think it was 8 letters to different publishers, and I got back 11 replies saying, we'd like to publish Usagi. So, a
couple of offices were bugged.
Yeah, Diana Schutz contacted me and said, we'd like to do Usagi, and as soon as the last Mirage issue is out, we'll have the new Usagi, the Dark Horse Usagi, out next month, the following month. So I went with Dark Horse. And like I said, I had worked with Diana once before on a comic called Fish Police. I did a short story for Fish Police that she edited, and I thought she was terrific. We still do have an editor at Dark Horse, and also hired our own editor, just because.
It's nice to have somebody that's like a traffic manager, traffic cop, sort of.
doing traffic, and
sort of thing.
he's our liaison with the publisher.
So, talking about publishers, I always thought it was interesting that you'd published with Fantagraphics and then you'd gone to Mirage and then Dark Horse, but you let Fanta have the reprint rights or control of the material that you did with them. I always thought that was really magnanimous and also like interesting. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, Fantagraphics, my first big publisher, still has the rights to black and white Usagi books that they published. As long as the stories are in print, they can maintain the rights. Usagi has always been in print at Fantagraphics. Right now they're doing those big special editions, those thick omnibus books. And they're constantly in print, but they don't have access to the color stories. But yeah, as long as it's in print with Fantagraphics, I'm more than willing to let them keep those rights.
Has it been, so it's funny, so we're talking about characters that you had in one panel of one issue early on, and the fact that when you were doing that material, reprints weren't, I mean, you could have like single issue reprints, but like you certainly didn't have these, omnibuy and all that stuff. Have you noticed, your career has gone on long enough, your back catalog of this has been able to be reprinted and is staying accessible up to the present day. Have you noticed anything particularly about that, like how that has shaped audience reaction?
People read the omnibus editions nowadays more than the single issues or single collections. And personally, I find those big omnibus editions bulky, they're heavy.
A little unwieldy.
Very unwieldy. There's the Polish editions of the omnibus books are much more compact, and they're like a little bigger than manga size, but you can fit them in your hand, you can read them on the bus, you can take them around. With the Dark Horse ones, they're heavy.
Yeah.
And I don't bring them to conventions because they're big and heavy, and they're a lot cheaper than.
Yeah. Artist editions and stuff are wonderful. They're great, but every time you have to move, you're just like, oh God, how many of these things do I have to do?
I've got a bunch of those artist editions, and the Stranka one is great, the Kuber ones are great, but they're big to heavy carry around.
You need a load-bearing structure to put those things on to look at them. If you had to, God forbid, give up either writing or drawing Usagi, who would you trust or want to work with as the other half of a Usagi Yojimbo?
I don't
So, if
know.
you could only draw it, or if you could only write it, who would you write to?
Writing? Gee, I really don't know. I never thought about that.
No reason you would.
I'm good. I'm good. That's going to haunt me.
Okay. Hypothetically, in something that'll never happen.
I'm going to be thinking about this for all the time.
Okay. Alrighty.
Maybe I'll go blind, and oh my gosh, it'll be your fault. No, I don't know. I really don't. I never gave that.
Well, I mean, okay. So let me amend that a little bit. So we're talking about the Kagemusha. Who were people that you would trust with Usagi?
There's a friend of mine from Mallorca in Spain, named Paul, and I love his work. I love his artwork. I love his writing. And he's one person I really want to do one of the Kagemusha stories. There's some others that, like one short stories that they expressed interest in doing, some very prominent people. But as far as an ongoing storyline, I don't know. Like Jared and Zach, they said they already want to do a follow-up to 1984.
If you were getting started today, or, in 2025, 2024, rather than, 1984, what would you do differently?
I'd probably work on the computer. No, really, it's like, I'm really old-fashioned now. Even they talk about AI coming in. People are concerned about AI. I'm still concerned about the computer coming in. I mean, I do everything by hand on paper. It's like,
That did remind me. You were talking about pens and stuff earlier. I've had the chance to talk with John Workman, and I can't remember the actual type of pen, but he was talking about some type of pen that was going out of, not out of print, but it was being discontinued, and him and Todd Klein scouring New York for like every art supply store, like trying to buy up as many of these things as he can, and he still has his stock, but it's getting lower. And he's somebody who really mixes analog lettering and digital lettering. He's like one of the things of that is that it's less that he has to do, with these pens, that he's trying to conserve resources and things. Does anybody have a question?
Hi, I have a question. Apologize if this is asked already because I got lost on the way here. But I was wondering with like the collaborations you've had with other comics, especially like, did you have a favorite Ninja Turtles collaboration?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, my favorite Ninja Turtle is Leonardo. And if you ask me what weapon Raphael uses, I would not be able to tell you. But Leonardo, I like Leonardo. My favorite collaboration, Ninja Turtle crossover, was When. I really like doing that. That was a story that I thought of about 15 years ago, but I never had the opportunity to do that until recently with IDW. So, yes.
After Usagi, who is your favorite character in the Usagi universe?
My favorite character after Usagi, I don't know. I like Tomoe. I like Gen. Gen was inspired by Toshiro Mifune in Yojimbo. The way he manipulates people and the way he kind of scratches himself. But yeah, I think Gen, he's a complementary to Usagi, where Usagi's noble and, he does the right thing. Gen is kind of like conniving. And also, too, I like them in that they're like Laura and Hardy, where Usagi is the shorter, like Mutt and Jeff. I was going to say Mutt and Jeff, but no one knows who Mutt and Jeff are. I don't know if they know who Laura and Hardy are. But anyway, Usagi's small and Gen's big and massive, so I like the contrast of the two.
You were saying earlier that when you come up with an idea, how do you even get to that next stage before that? This is an idea I want to do. You've got this universe we've created that for so long, all these characters, and now some side universes to go down. And how do you even decide this is the story that I want to do next? So this is the I'm sure there's multiple things
Right.
at once. How do you even get to the point of like, okay, now I'm going to mull it over from?
Well, right now I have landmark story points. I know where I'm heading towards. Right now, Usagi is currently just north of Kyoto, and I know the next storyline is going to take place in the Yagyu village. Then he'll go to Kyoto, they'll meet Inspector Ishida. He'll go further south. I'll finish up the Lord Hikiji storyline, and then in Hiroshima, which is Geishu territory, Tomoe's wedding. Those are big points for Usagi's stories. It's just getting from one point to the next, getting the shorter stories, smaller stories, to keep the story going and make a logical connection to the next big point. And that's always the hardest. I know what I'm doing 10 years from now. I don't know what I'm doing next month. And part of it is I know I want to do a story about growing tea. So that's why I'm going to Japan to visit tea farms. And it's exciting. I get to travel places like going to Japan. It's all tax deductible, so it's kind of nice.
Unfortunately, it looks like we are out of time. Everybody, Stan Sakai. Thanks again for listening. As I mentioned before, we will be back in 2 weeks for some Claremont X-Men goodness. Please feel free to like, subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you are given the opportunity to do so. It really does help us get the word out about what we've got going on here in our own little slice of the multiverse, and we would all greatly appreciate it. Until we meet again, my name is Greg. Please stay safe, keep enjoying those funny books, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening. Systems disengaged.